This morning at around 6:29 a.m., the Oakland Police Department received a call of a gentleman armed with a firearm and brandishing that firearm in the 2400 block of Telegraph Avenue. Our officers responded and made contact with the suspect in the 2100 block of Telegraph, where the suspect immediately began to fire shots at the officer. The officer was struck with that gunfire, and through our investigation, we know now that our officer, an additional officer, did fire back. So we do have an officer-involved shooting that we're also investigating, striking the suspect with non-life-threatening injuries. The suspect then fled to the 2100 block of MLK, where our officers pursued, and the suspect barricaded himself inside a residence in that area. Once the suspect was barricaded, the department then began to bring in additional resources, our tactical team, our tactical negotiators, as well as our mental health units and our crisis intervention units. We began to negotiate with the suspect. We were able to create a rapport with the suspect, and the suspect agreed to surrender. We have recovered the firearm that was used in this crime. We have also recovered the knife that the suspect used to injure himself while he was barricaded. Again, this is a difficult day for us, but a day that we are very fortunate because the officer is currently being treated for non-life-threatening injuries, and the suspect in this case is also being treated for non-life-threatening injuries. But this is a sober reminder of how dangerous it is in the city of Oakland, how armed suspects will quickly utilize these firearms towards our officers, like we've seen in so many other cases. 100 homicides in our city, 3 shootings last night alone. The level of violence in this city continues to be intolerable. Today, we're very fortunate that nobody was fatally injured, but this is a reminder for the other 53 officers that the Oakland Police Department has lost, that are etched in our wall, that this is a very dangerous job. This job comes with tremendous risk. So I'm honored that these police officers go out there every day and put their lives on the line for this community. A community member called us and we responded. And a suspect chose to use that firearm on an officer today. We all should be thankful that nobody was fatally injured. We'll continue this investigation. We'll continue to look into the circumstances regarding why this happened. We truly understand the important role that it played to have our mental health staff with us to help negotiate these things. We don't understand what the circumstances were behind this. Why did this happen? But again, this is just the beginning of the investigation. We'll be continuing our investigation throughout the day. With that, if there's any questions, I'll take them.
How's the officer? Can you tell us anything more?
The officer is being treated. He's doing well. I want to respect the family and friends and the other police officers to make sure that we share that information with them. But the officer is doing well. I went inside. I communicated with the officer. Had a chance to talk to him. Had a chance to hear from him. So that was good.
All this comes at a time when officer numbers are going down, crime is going up, and then something like this happens. Do you want to connect the dots here, Chief?
Well, I mean, I think I don't want to, look at this from the perspective of this incident had anything to do with the number of officers that we had out there. What this really says to me is that there are a proliferation of firearms in our community. We've recovered over 850 guns already this year. It says that not only are guns too readily available, but we also have so many people that are willing to use these guns against others. And today, unfortunately, somebody chose to use it towards a police officer.
Can you say anything about the suspect? I know did he live there? Did he work there? Was he living in one of those encampments that's nearby?
We're not sure. It's early in the investigation. Again, like I said, we'll continue to look into the circumstances. We know that the suspect is a male, 50 years old, who is obviously somebody that we want to look closely into and look at his history and see what might have contributed to this incident today, but we're still early in the investigation.
Did anybody else see it?
No, not at this time.
So many standoffs either go really long or they some kind of tragedy, some kind of injury. It sounds like this is a situation where things went really well in terms of the negotiation. Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, it really goes to the way in which we are approaching these situations, trying to make sure that we are negotiating our way through these things, but also bringing in different, people to be a part of that negotiation, not understanding what circumstances we may face. So we want to be prepared for whatever situation we encounter in terms of the person's mental stability.
Officers on the scene didn't really have a chance to take some sort of tactical strategy. Is that what you're saying? Can you speak to that?
Well, I think it's early on to say specifically what the officers encountered. We know that shortly upon their arrival, they did encounter gunfire.
You say what type of gun it was?
Not prepared to put out that information at this time, but we will at some point.
There was a handgun?
Yes.
Thanks, Chief.
When was the last time someone, a member of the force, got injured on the job? I can't recall. Do you remember when? Was the last time someone was shot on her?
Are you talking about, just to clarify your question, are you talking about an officer getting shot?
An officer, yeah.
Okay. So an officer getting shot, let me get back to you on that.
Yeah.
We have had very low officer involved shootings, so we're going to get back to you on that.
Yeah. And I think that goes to the way in which we're addressing these kind of armed situations, right? That we're doing it in the safest manner in which we can. And so we've had to, we've been fortunate not to be involved in many officer-involved shootings. And I think that's a credit to our officers and the way they're being trained. But obviously when you face circumstances where when the officer immediately arrived, they encounter gunfire, doesn't matter what tactics you have. Sometimes people are going to make decisions. Suspects are going to make decisions to use gunfire towards officers, and you're not prepared for that. And so we just are fortunate today that it didn't lead to something more serious, injury more serious to the officer. All right. Thank you all.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
You're not. I'll be right back to my mic.